Hey everyone, welcome back and thanks for following along as I try to transform my backyard into the oasis that I've always dreamed it to be. So here we are in week 3. The weather is definitely getting warmer. I can see some of the bulbs that I planted starting to come up, and I had a pleasant surprise. I planted some chives in the middle of the big pot on our balcony, and those chives are starting to grow. So that's cool. I totally didn't expect that. I didn't realize that they were perennial, and actually some parsley that I just threw in a pot near the raised beds that actually started to regrow. I was planning to at least get the spinach and the Swiss chard into the ground this week. However, when I looked ahead to the weather, it actually was forecasting that it might snow this weekend. So since I knew that it was going to be a nicer week this week, but maybe still too early to put any plants in the ground, I was kind of looking at what else could get done in the backyard. And one change that I've been wanting to make since we've moved here is to put a new ramp on the shed. The ramp that we have currently is what the builder just put there when we moved in. It's a piece of old fence that's just propped up against the shed. It's very slippery. My husband has tried to add some things to it to add some grip so we're not slipping and falling every time, especially right after it rains. It becomes really slick, and it's a piece of old fence. It's not going to last forever. And the other thing is, it really doesn't look great. When it comes to things that require some handiness, I do lean on my husband a lot. I could probably figure it all out on my own. However, he is handy. He knows what he's doing. So if I've got the resource, why not take advantage of it? That's my point of view. And he is willing to help most of the time. So last Sunday night, I sat down with him and I said, I'd really like to build a ramp on the shed this week, and we're gonna have some nice days. We're gonna have some sunny evenings, so can we do that? And I looked at some YouTube videos. I read some things online. It didn't seem too complicated. It does require some understanding of how to use a saw, because you have to cut the wood at the right angle, and there's some nailing and some drilling, and it seems like to do it right at the base of the ramp, you can pour concrete, or you at least want to put like some concrete blocks so that the base of the ramp is resting on that sort of like solid foundation. And then we had a little bit of I wouldn't call it a fight. It wasn't, we had a butting of heads. Not even a butting of heads. We both, in discussing this, our visions weren't necessarily aligning, but I think ultimately it was positive that we had this conversation, because what came out of the conversation was that he couldn't see my vision for the backyard. He wasn't sure if I had a vision. It kind of sounded like I was maybe haphazardly saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I didn't have a big cohesive plan. And he was worried that it could add up cost-wise, and also it wouldn't be synthesized, and it would just be kind of all over the place. And I realized that the way that I was communicating it and the way I was presenting it, it did kind of seem that way. And maybe because I didn't totally have a cohesive vision. I had sort of this vision in my mind, but when I needed to go to articulate it to somebody else, I couldn't. So what we decided was that I would sort of draw what I had in mind on paper, and then we could kind of talk about it, and we could also see overall what we want to do and we want to prioritize. So I did that. I went outside and I made some measurements. I measured the shed. I measured the length of space from the shed to the driveway. I measured the width of the driveway, and then I scaled it and I put it down on paper, and then I came up with this plan. So it's a little bit hard to see. So this is the shed right here, and this is what will be the new and improved ramp. And again, this is all to scale, or at least I think it is. I did the best that I could. And these are here, these are the kind of the landscaping beds that I want to create. So there are, I basically drew like two options. Like there's one that just kind of goes like this, and then there's one that comes, maybe extends a little bit further so that there's room for a tree. And we both kind of agreed we might as well go for option 2. And here's the driveway. The question that we're kind of mulling over now is, so right now we have kind of stepping stones going from the shed to the driveway, and some of them have gotten cracked and crushed, and we always saw those as kind of temporary. So the question now is, would we want to put in a different kind of paver or no paver? You know, me kind of looking at this, I said, maybe we leave this part sort of totally just grass. But then my husband kind of had an idea. This was my first attempt. I didn't leave enough space to the side, but so basically we have pavers between the raised beds and the shed. So we have kind of a paver section here, and then the pavers kind of wind. I like the windy look. So sometimes I think you're gonna have weeks like this where it's less hands in the dirt, things moving, things happening, things being purchased, and more just sitting back, planning, thinking about what do we want, what is the vision. And honestly, it probably is better in the long run to take the time to do this, because you're going to save yourself more time in the end. So that was this week. We'll see what goes on next week. There's a lot to do. Maybe we'll get started on the ramp. We'll see.